I hate intros, Kakegurui Season 2, Episode 1. We kick things off with a friendly gamble between Yumiko and Midari, who are up against a new face in Irimi Mushibami, and the mediator for the match is Inaho Yamato. Irimi had made a finger-cutting guillotine where the blade is held up by a random string. Contestants take turns cutting strings one by one until the blade falls, and if you take your finger out, you lose. Irimi had rigged the game so that their fingers are actually protected, but she learns that while they were asked to leave the room, Yumiko may have had the mediator remove the plating protecting their fingers. With this new knowledge, she starts to panic, while typical Yumiko and Midari are kinda getting off on the whole situation. Jump on over to Kirari, who explains that the student council is being dissolved to shake things up in response to Yumiko targeting them. She will also be giving up her presidency in order to hold an election to see if anybody can compete with her. We also get the introduction of members of the Momobami clan who have been called in by Kirari. We have Tarano and Yumi Totobami, Sumika wa Rakakubami, Mio Inbami, Miroslava Honbami, Nozomi Konbami, the brothers Rin and Ibara Onbami, Miri Yobami, Irimi Mushibami, who was the finger guillotine chick, and their servant giving the introduction, Rei Batsubami. Episode 2. They are all distant relatives, and the leader of their clan is Kirari, even though none of them really like her or each other. Over the next 30 days, the election will be held, with each student getting one chip representing a vote, and whoever gets the most of these chips at the end will become president. The Momobami clan are all interested in winning so that they can take over Hyako Academy and force Kirari to step down as leader of the clan. We also learn that Yumiko is apparently a distant relative in the Momobami clan, but no one seems to know how they're related. Now we're gonna go ahead and jump on back up to the present to the finger guillotine bet. It comes down to the last two strings, and Midari cuts both strings at the same time. In a panic, Irimi withdraws her finger as it's falling. Luckily, the plating protecting their fingers was never removed in the first place, so Yumiko and Midari's fingers are safe also. Yumiko had a hunch about the play and made it seem like the mediator had removed it, but really she didn't. In the end, Irimi loses for taking her finger out. Midari is disqualified for cutting two strings at once, leaving Yumiko as the winner. Yumiko is pretty pissed off about this because she feels like Midari had robbed her of the ecstasy of only having one string left, making her hate Midari even more. Episode 3. We get a quick scene of Yuriko as she collapses after losing a bet against Miri and Mio. Later on, Rei introduces the two of them to Yumiko because the three of them were invited to some sort of election battle. The lolly Runa makes her reappearance as she is there to act as the impartial moderator. Suzui is feeling off about this match, so he decides that he's gonna join in at the last minute. The game they're gonna be playing is decided by Runa and is called Nim Type 0, where there are 4 cards 0 through 3, and each player takes turns playing a card. And the player that brings the total value of the cards on the table to over 10 loses. They are also allowed to bet with chips that represent 24 hours worth of servitude toward the student council. Meanwhile, Mary is approached by Rubrika, who offers Mary the opportunity to win 100 votes. The drawback is that if she loses, she will be forced to join Rubrika's campaign. But anyways, back to the others, where in the first hand, everyone bets their 30 chips and Mio ends up losing the first round. We then see that Mary was being led to believe that she was gambling against the president, but when she finds out that it was her twin sister, she refuses to play. Mary then gets a call from Suzui, who says that there's something wrong. When Mio initially met Yumiko, she went on to poison her, and now that the poison is starting to kick in, Yumiko has collapsed. After hearing this, Mary wins the 100 bets and proceeds to sit in for Yumiko to play against Miri and Mio. The conditions of the bet are changed a little bit because now they are also playing for the antidote to the poison that is afflicting Yumiko. Everybody comes to the agreement that the antidote should be worth around 100 votes, and after each round, the loser of that round will have to prick their finger on a needle that has the poison on it. In the last couple of scenes, Mary orders Suzui to show everyone at the table his cards. He agrees to this because shortly after Yumiko had been afflicted with the poison, she told him to trust Mary. He places all of his cards face up on the table, and after doing so, Mary feels confident enough to win, so she bets all 100 of her votes. Episode 4. During the second round of the match, we learn that Miri and Mio have some sort of telepathic communication that allows them to talk without saying a word. They use this to discuss their hands and strategize on how to defeat Mary. Mary instructs Suzui on which cards he needs to play, and she is able to guide them to a victory in the second round as well. The other girls aren't out of it just yet because they have multiple antidotes, each valuing at 100 votes, so they get to keep playing. Even after winning the round, they technically get the antidotes, but they can't use it until the game is finished. On top of that, Miri is forced to prick her finger on a poison since she lost the last round. In the third round, Mary raises 10,000 votes using 24-hour chips.
1万票は
After everybody is done calling, Mary reveals that Runa was using the Gilbreth Shuffle, which was making the order of cards predictable. Since Miri and Mio didn't pick up on this, they were 100% going to lose from the start. Mio turns out to be a bit of a heartless bitch and instructs Miri to lose, which would force her into basically permanent servitude towards the student council. Before she can do this though, she ends up collapsing because of the poison that she was afflicted with in the previous round. This ultimately makes them forfeit, and Mary and Suzui win. Yumiko is rushed to the infirmary, and Rei tells them how to administer the antidote so that she survives. Mary also tells the unconscious Yumiko that she is gunning for becoming president. Also, not that it really matters because she's fucking unconscious. Now we jump on over to Kirari, who is continuing to smash nerds and collecting a good amount of election chips. In the last scene, we see that she has some new challengers when members of the Momobami clan come looking for her. Episode 5. The election has now been going on for over a week at this point, and we get a rundown of the standings. Kirari is killing pretty much everybody in the standings, comfortably sitting in first place after her victory against the Momobami clan members from the last episode. Yumiko is still technically in the running, but she's pretty far behind, sitting in 10th place. Yumemi then makes her reappearance in order to ask Yumiko to perform on stage with her again and bet against fans in order to pick up some easy chips. That was the original plan until one of Yumemi's idols, a movie star named Natari Kawaru, shows up. Her real name is actually Sumika Warakubami, and she is a part of the Momobami clan as well. She challenges both Yumiko and Yumemi to a concert consisting of showing off 3 performances. The first round is singing, where Yumiko and Yumemi perform a pop song that people seem to respond really well to. That doesn't seem to last long though, and they get rolled by Natari, who sings Amazing Grace and wins the vote 8-92. This is a serious stomp, especially considering that Yumemi had bribed most of the audience to vote for her instead. Episode 6. The only logical conclusion that Yumemi could come up with as to why she lost is because Natari must have found out about the bribing and offered a higher bribe to ensure that the contest was judged fairly. In the next round, they play a game called Grin and Bear It Death Macaroon, where each contestant eats 3 macaroons, but one of them is extremely spicy. They then have to guess which macaroon that their opponent ate was the spicy one based off of their reaction, testing their acting skills. To make it seem like she was in intense pain, Yumemi breaks her own finger so it would seem convincing. In the end, she ends up just looking like a fucking idiot for breaking her own finger because Natari sees right through the act and pinpoints the right macaroon anyways. Luckily, Yumiko comes in clutch with her guess based off of nothing at all, and the round ends up being a tie. For the third round, players place cards face down, declaring a value, and if the total of all the cards exceeds 63, then the last person who played a card loses. Whoever wins this round will get double points, so the first 2 rounds were just for show and mean nothing at all. At first, Yumiko is disgusted with how overwhelmed Yumemi is acting, so she refuses to work with her. Towards the end of the round, Yumemi goes through a series of self-reflections, gains a little bit of confidence, and asks Yumiko to pass, allowing her to pass as well. When the total of the cards is revealed, it is over 63, and since Yumiko and Yumemi had passed their turns, Natari was the last one who played a card, making her the loser. Episode 7. For the first time, Yumiko initiates a challenge of her own against Toronto. She has no interest in taking up other people's votes, so Toronto offers up her votes as a reward to 5 players who all agree to compete in the greater good game. The other contestants are Itsuki Sumuragi, Miroslava Honbami, Yumiko Jabami, Ibara Obami, and finally Kade Manyuda, with Rumia Uru residing over it as the moderator. This is a game of deceit, where players go into a separate room and distribute coins between a personal piggy bank for themselves and a tax box that doubles the value of the coins for the good of all of the players. The coins from the tax box are redistributed, and they repeat the process, and the player with the most coins after 5 rounds wins. In the beginning, Yumiko suggests that everybody places their coins into the tax box. After the first round, when the coins are redistributed to the players, there are only 20 coins, meaning that somebody betrays trade them and put coins into their personal bank. If the group decides that they know who the traitor is, then they have the power to remove them from the game, but at this point they aren't sure. Yumiko decides to take a different approach, suggesting that each player get a piece of paper that will tell them how many coins to put into the tax box, hopefully exposing the traitor. This isn't working out because now there are even fewer coins, meaning that there could be two traitors collaborating. Everyone is throwing sus on everyone else until Kade, who doesn't seem too invested, says that he actually thinks the traitor is Yumiko. Episode 8. Kade gives his reasoning for the suspicions on Yumiko, and the distrust amongst the players continues to grow. Things continue to go downhill because in round 3 there are only 15 coins placed into the tax box. Kade and Yumiko both decide to shake things up a bit by telling them that they are no longer placing coins into the tax box and they will all just go down together. This is enough convincing for everybody to come together and put their coins into the tax box for round 4. After hearing that all of the coins were placed in the tax box, Kade comes to the conclusion that the traitors are likely Miroslava and Itsuki.
スメラギー付きお前だ
Itsuki was leaving notes in the other room for Miroslava to find in order to cooperate together for the win. This means that Miroslava likely had the most coins in the group, and so everybody decides to vote her out. Itsuki wins with 45 coins, earning the top prize of 100 votes. Itsuki wanted to bring Kade out of his slump after his loss to Yumiko, which is why she drug him into the bet in the first place. She had bet on him winning because she believed in his skills, and even if she lost, she would still be happy that he was the winner, so there was really no downside. Because Toronto had won the third-party bet, Itsuki ends up having to pay her 150 votes, basically negating all of her winnings. Itsuki then withdraws from the election because she wasn't really interested in winning, she just wanted to help out Kade. Episode 9. Runa again gives the standings of the top 10 where Kirari is still ahead of everybody else. Toronto has closed the gap after her wager with Itsuki, putting her in 2nd place, and Yumiko is now in 6th place. During their little meetup to discuss the standings and have all of the contestants talk a bit, Yumiko ends up challenging Kirari out of nowhere. Sayaka Igarashi is Kirari's secretary and has some sort of weird obsession with her, so she steps in to white knight her, challenging Yumiko with their lives on the line. That's a little bit too boring for Yumiko, so the stakes are changed to Sayaka will give up any interaction with Kirari, against Yumiko will never gamble again. The game is Tower of Doors, where Kirari also says that the loser should jump from the top floor and kill themselves, basically negating everything we just talked about. Both contestants have to solve problems that will open doors and trapdoors to get to the first floor, grab a flower, and then return to the top floor. Yumiko's first door is a dead end, so she can't go anywhere, while Sayaka opens a trapdoor moving down one floor. On Yumiko's next turn, she takes a risk by opening a door that leads to the outside in the last scene. Episode 10. We learn about Runa's running prediction that a lot of the votes are actually being held as proxies for the front runners, which will likely have a huge unexpected impact in the voting at the end. But anyways, back to the game. Even though Sayaka manages to get to the first floor and retrieve her flower, Yumiko is right on her heels, showing up one turn after. Sayaka's still convinced that she can beat her on the ascent back up to the top of the tower, but when she gets there, Yumiko's already there.
お早いご到着で全問正解だったのではありませんか
Yumiko had come to the conclusion that the outer part of the tower rotates after having opened one of the outer doors and noticed that she couldn't see the moon. Since only the outer part rotates, she knew that the wall initially blocking the inner door wouldn't be there, so she uses the central stairs to ascend and descend in 2 turns, winning the race. Sayaka yeets herself out of the outer door as part of the bet, and to her horror, Kirari had jumped with her. They both survived thanks to the door they jumped out of being the one that leads to a padded landing, preserving their lives. We get some Yuri vibes fired up, which I was a fan of, until Kirari licks blood off of Sayaka and the confusion just killed my arousal. Even though she had lost, Kirari asked her to be the secretary again, which I didn't think was allowed, but I don't care enough to argue about it. Episode 11. A number of students receive an invitation to a 100 votes auction, including Yumiko and Satome. Yumiko, Suzui, Mary, Yuriko, Midari, and Rurika are the only ones who got invitations and accepted. Rei will be the one acting as the auctioneer, and Inaho is the mediator. In the first round, Mary wins, earning herself 80 votes, but with the others who bid, there is an unknown beneficiary that collects 130 votes. The second round is won by Nishitonen for 80 votes also. In the third round, Mary has a realization that there is another bidder, and she accuses chooses Rei, which she admits to and says that she will sit the 4th round out. After that, Yumiko exposes that Rei is not only the auctioneer, but she is also the sponsor benefiting from the bids. In response to this realization, Yumiko has 3 billion yen, which is all of the winnings she got from her match with Kade in Season 1, put on the line as a challenge to the real Rei. This prompts Rei to take on her true form by removing the disguise she was wearing. Episode 12. We get some backstory on Rei while she was working as a servant to the Momobami clan. She was always treated poorly except for one lady who was kind to her, but the Momobami clan destroyed that lady through gambling. Rei sets out on a quest for revenge against the Momobami clan for what they had done to the lady. Her plan is to win the election, and if she does that, then she can take Hirari's position as head of the Momobami clan and exact her vengeance on the members. She explains that she is using votes collected from students betting on whether she would win the election. Everyone realizes that they're in too deep now and have to continue even if it means risking all of the votes that they have accumulated, and Yuriko wins the next bid with 99 votes. Yumiko devises a new strategy to bid 101 votes, which intimidates the others from bidding. You are essentially spending votes to get votes, and since each bid is worth 100 votes, then by bidding 101, you'll actually lose 1 vote if you win. Everyone involved starts to pick up on her strategy, and only one bidder bids 1 vote each round, forcing Rei to lose all of her votes. After Rei is out, Yumiko suggests one more bid. The 3 billion yen that Rei is allowed to gamble with, up against Yumiko giving up the Jibami name, decided by the flip of a coin. I'm not really too sure what she was trying to accomplish with this. I guess she just wanted the opportunity to go against Rei one-on-one, but she ends up winning the coin flip at the end. In the last couple of scenes, we get a montage of all of the characters, and we see that Yumiko had actually lost a lot of the winnings that she had got from the auction from random gambles around the campus. I'm gonna be doing the next season, and you can find that on the left side, or you can check out all of the Kakegurui videos in the playlist on the right side. You can also find the links in the description below, and the only thing I hate more than intros is outros.